Hi all, this is the second video on the Dell Optiplex 7010. Now I've added a low profile graphics card, which is the AMD R5 340X, which has got 2 gig of VRAM. Now I could have added something like a low profile 1050 Ti, but that would be out of the budget I've allowed for this system. Now I will be adding a solid state drive for the operating system, but for the purpose of gaming you probably won't see that much difference in the frame rates, because that SSD will only be for the OS and not for the games. It's only going to be about 64 gig. So straight into the first benchmark. It's Valley, and it's on the system resolution, which is 1920 by 1080. The quality is set to low and any other graphical settings are switched off. Final score 575. On Heaven, same settings, and the final score is 402, so nothing to write home about, but at least it gives you an idea of performance in the two main benchmark tools that's used today. So what I'll do now is start up a few games and talk through the performance of each one. First up is the ever reliable in benchmarks even today, Crysis. Now I'm recording this on an external camera rather than with Bandicam, because I want the system to have as much resource as possible. Now in the top right it's got the AMD's performance metrics, which you probably can't see, so I will state what the frame rate is for each game as I play it. Now with Crysis I've set all the settings to medium, and the resolution is 1366 by 768, but feel free to experiment. There's quite a few settings there. So let's start the game up and just see how it performs. So with not a lot of characters moving on the screen, we're getting nudging 40 frames per second, which is just fine. So what we'll do is I'll try and get a few characters moving on the screen. So it's still holding up well, just above 40. If you want higher frame rates, then maybe set the quality settings down a notch or two. So that's Crysis. So up next is Grand Theft Auto 5. Now I've got it on one of the lowest resolution settings, and I've nudged down the resolution scale a touch, and a lot of the other effects are switched off. And at the moment, in this opening driving scene, which is not really that taxing on the system, on this system, we're getting above 50 frames per second, so I suppose there is a little bit of leeway to get some of those quality settings up a little bit. But as I said before, this opening driving level is not that taxing, so feel free to experiment. And on this size monitor, I think some of those effects, like the overall quality, which is set to low, wouldn't make that much difference if they were switched on. So there's plenty of room for experiment in Grand Theft Auto 5. Up next is Counter-Strike Global Offensive. Now a lot of the effects are set to off or at the minimum. The resolution's a couple of notches down. And we're getting above 60 frames per second, which is more than enough, although I'm not very good at this game. So feel free to experiment if either you want to see better quality or even more frame rates on Csgo. Up next we have a great looking game, in my opinion, called Paladins, and at the moment maxed out all the settings and top resolution. We get in mid 40s, so if you want more, just experiment with the graphical settings. But at the moment it's not looking too bad. I mean, when there's a lot of action it goes to late 30s, so I think you probably need to revisit those graphical settings. Right, so that's Paladins. On to FIFA 2018. Now I've got the quality settings on medium, and the resolution set to the middle setting, and at the moment we're getting mid 50s, occasionally nudging 60 frames per second, which is fine on this size monitor. Me personally, I'd leave all the settings at those values that I just mentioned. During the cutscenes, I read somewhere that this FIFA, and possibly others, caps it at 30 for some reason. Not sure why. Maybe to stop stuttering. The system may even play FIFA games or one or two after this, but you'll probably have to drop the settings even more. Okay, so that's FIFA 2018. On to the first racing game. This is Need for Speed Payback. Now, it came out, I think, in 2017, so it's sort of taxing this system. At the moment, in the opening level, we're getting above 30, and the resolution on all the quality settings are set to minimal. I mean, it looks okay on this size monitor, but really you do want above 30 frames per second, so I'd leave everything as it is. You can probably be certain that any Need for Speed racing games prior to this should be fine. It's quite a comprehensive series actually, so there's quite a few games that you can play in it. Right, so that's Need for Speed Payback. Looking at Fortnite now. Now I've got the resolution on maximum and the resolution scale on maximum, and the frame rate locked at 60. So indoors, that's what it's telling me with the Fortnite in-game frame rate counter. Not many characters moving on the screen at the moment, so I expect that rate will go down when there's a firefight, but just generally running around outside, it's not far off that 60 frames per second, occasionally dips. So I think if you start getting stutters or during firefights, then maybe revisit those settings and adjust accordingly, but at the moment it's not too bad. Right, so that's Fortnite. On to Rocket League. Now I've set all the quality settings to performance as opposed to high quality, just to get that frame rate up a touch. It's late 20s. I've dropped the resolution down 2 or 3 notches as well, so I think you'll probably need to revisit that to get more frames, but at the moment it's not playing too bad, so it's up to you if you want to change any of them settings. Right, so that's Rocket League. Just to recap then, I've run some benchmarks including games on this Dell Optiplex 7010, which has got 16 gig of RAM, an R5 340X graphics card, an i5 3470 processor. Now I haven't added an SSD because the plan is to add that just for the operating system, so regarding games the loading times will be a lot better if you did put it onto a high capacity SSD, but the frame rate, I don't think it will make that much difference unless somebody can correct me on that. Now I haven't tested games such as Zula, Valorant and Team Fortress 2 because they're less taxing on a system such as this compared to the other games that I've tested. But if you want me to test those games, just drop a message, or if there's any others you want me to test, feel free to drop a comment. Please like and subscribe, and I try and do videos whenever possible, so keep a lookout on the channel for other refurbishment videos. Thanks for watching.